When Erik Ten Hag was announced as Manchester United manager, I simulated his first 5 seasons in FM22 to see how he would do. In that video, he was given a transfer budget of £40 million and won 1 Carabao Cup, 1 FA Cup and the Europa League in his time in charge. This time round we'll be doing another 5-year simulation, but I'm going to be giving the new Manchester United manager a £200 million budget to spend in his first season in charge. From then on it will be up to the United board to determine a transfer budget for the other 4 seasons. As in the first video, I've given Ten Hag full control over squad selection, player contracts and transfers. I've also used the same custom database to give me the most accurate results possible and then simulated through to the end of the season. This means United finish in 6th place, qualifying for the Europa League and on 62 points, which is one more than they theoretically can get this season in real life, but is the closest I can actually get it without them potentially falling outside of having any European competition at all. Much the same as in real life, Paul Pogba, Jesse Lingard, Juan Mata, Matic and Cavani have all left the club at the end of their contracts. In the summer transfer window, Ten Hag starts putting his newfound transfer budget to good use. Firstly bringing in Dio Upamecano from Bayern Munich for £80 million, before splashing out £39.5 million on Real Madrid left winger Rodrigo, and then a huge £103 million on West Ham midfielder Declan Rice. On the outside there isn't a lot of movement, with no major players leaving the club permanently and a few of the younger stars heading out on loans. Even after all these transfers, Ten Hag still has just under £80 million left in the transfer kitty, which means that these deals have first of all been completed on instalments, and secondly that there are still potentially transfers to come in the January transfer window. At the beginning of the season, and assuming that Ten Hag will be playing a 4-3-3, FM22 suggests that this is the best possible starting 11. Of course, FM22 Ten Hag might choose to not play exactly these roles or even this formation, so do take this with a pinch of salt. There aren't actually any more first team signings in January, although this might be simply due to the fact that there's no more space for more players due to squad registration rules. There still haven't been any major transfers out of the first team yet, although both Axel Tuanzebe and Andreas Pereira do leave the club in the January transfer window. Come the end of the season, Ten Hag has managed to win some silverware in the form of the Carabao Cup. United had a good run throughout the competition, including a 2-1 win against local rivals Manchester City in the quarter-finals, before winning 3-0 against Everton to lift the trophy. In the FA Cup, however, United are knocked out in the 5th round by Newcastle United, with 2 of the goals being scored by Edinson Cavani, who of course was brought into the club on a free after leaving United in the summer. In the Europa League, United also do fairly well. They come top of their group, and then go on a run that sees them face fellow Premier League outfit West Ham in the semi-final. A 6-2 aggregate win sees them through to the final, where they come across Real Madrid. Apparently Real have had a dodgy campaign in the Champions League this season and have found themselves in the Europa League, a competition that they eventually win by beating United 3-2 in the final. This does mean that Ten Hag is unable to match his first simulation feat of winning the Europa League in his first season at the club. But more importantly than the cup competitions is, how did United do in the Premier League? Well, Ten Hag's men start off quite well, picking up 18 points from a possible 21 throughout the months of August and September. Unfortunately, October isn't quite as successful though, and United drop points to West Ham, Liverpool, Man City and Spurs, all of whom have the potential to be competing for a top 6 spot, and our teams Man United really need to be beating if they want to solidify themselves as a top club once again under Ten Hag. Despite more losses to Southampton, Arsenal, Everton and Liverpool, United put together a strong run of form in the latter half of the season, which sees them go on a 12-match unbeaten run, allowing them to finish in 3rd place in the league. United were still a little bit off the pace when compared to Liverpool and Manchester City, City, but equally they were miles better than 4th place West Ham. This is a comfortable Champions League finish for Ten Hag. This performance was vastly helped by Cristiano Ronaldo, who finished as joint top goal scorer in the league with 26 goals and scored 42 in all competitions, and also Marcus Rashford, who contributed 23 goals in all competitions. Meanwhile, Fernandes has been the guy setting these chances up, providing 25 assists this season and chipping in with a further 12 goals himself. It does look like Ronaldo may be leaving in the summer here though, and it might be time for Ten Hag to look to bring a striker in. And he will have the financial backing to do this, as Ten Hag's team has performed pretty well, and also based on the fact that he didn't spend all of the season 1 transfer budget, Ten Hag is provided with £150 million heading into season 2. Ten Hag uses this money to strengthen the team in various areas. Firstly, bringing midfielder Vitana from Porto for £53 million. Next up is Boubacar Kamara, a French defensive midfielder who can also play as a centre-back for another £57 million. I'm not sure exactly where Ten Hag is hoping to play him, but given his status as a squad player, I'd assume he's being brought up as a rotation option behind Declan Rice. In January, Ten Hag continues spending, adding a further 3 players to the first team. Wilfried Singo is purchased from Bayern Munich for £44 million. A familiar face for my Hertha Berlin journeyman in Kvaratskhelia, a name I still can't pronounce, arrives from Russia for £17.75 million. And Angelo, a Brazilian wonderkid, is purchased for £19.5 million. By the end of the season, Ten Hag is switching regularly between a 4-2-3-1 wide and a 4-4-2 diamond narrow. With the second option, the best 11 looks like this, with Rice moving to midfield and Kamara sat behind both him and Vitana, and new signing Singer over on the right of the fence. This isn't exactly the formation Ten Hag is playing, but looking at this formation from the match against Fulham near the end of the season, you can see this is pretty close. There are some additional ins to the squad with some free transfers and young players purchased as well. On the outside of things, Victor Lindelof leaves for Brighton in a deal costing £22 million, and Phil Jones leaves for Union Berlin at the end of his contract. Other than that, nothing major happens, apart from Dalot heading over to Madrid on loan, where he plays 23 games and gets a rating of 7.13. Team performance wise, Rashford actually scores more goals than Cristiano Ronaldo this season, and just misses out on the Premier League Golden Boot to Mohamed Salah, who beats him by 1 goal but has played 3 more games for Liverpool. Jadon Sancho seems in excellent form as well, with 12 goals and 18 assists to his name. Fernandes also scores 19 and assists 13, and at the other end, David De Gea keeps 18 clean sheets in his 34 appearances in the league. So with all that said, how did United do in the competitions? Well, they have won the Carabao Cup for a second year in a row. This time beating Brighton 5-1 in the final with goals from Ronaldo, Fernandes and Kamara. In the FA Cup, United didn't do as well, and they were knocked out in the 5th round, losing on penalties to Spurs. In the Champions League, Ten Hag's men once again managed to finish top of a difficult group containing Bayern Munich, Villarreal and Monaco. However, this run doesn't last long, as they're then knocked out in the first stage of the knockout rounds, losing the match against Inter Milan 5-3 in the first leg and then drawing the home game 0-0. This one's a little bit disappointing, I feel. In your first season back in the Champions League, I'd hope United might go a little deeper. Which leaves us with the Premier League. United start fantastically, carrying on their unbeaten run from the end of the last season and carrying this into November, but they do eventually lose to Chelsea at the end of the month. There are then losses to Brighton and Liverpool in December and January, as well as draws starting to creep in. But United then only lose 2 matches between February and the end of the season. Now, the keen-eyed viewers amongst you might have noticed that this isn't as many losses as United have been having. There's a very good reason for that. It's because there aren't as many losses. It's only 5, in fact. And that is league-winning form, which is exactly what United have done. Yes, in his 2nd season in charge, Ten Hag has managed to bring the Premier League trophy back to Old Trafford, finishing 2 points ahead of runners-up Liverpool, This is a fantastic achievement, of course, one I'm sure many United fans would be very, very happy to see. But Ten Hag does have 3 more seasons to go. Can he do it twice? Well, he's been given another sizable budget to do it with, receiving a £103 million transfer kitty, along with a pat on the head from the board and a very clear message to get out there and do it again. During the summer, Ten Hag strengthens the squad, but not a whole lot. Marcus Antonio is brought in from Shakhtar for £87 million, with the only other major purchase being that of Danilo, a 23-year-old Brazilian midfielder, for £11.5 million. There are also a few youth players brought into the club on free deals, but none of them are anywhere near ready for the first team yet. I think the most surprising thing about this transfer window is that Ten Hag has opted not to purchase a striker. Looking at the released players list, we can see that Cristiano Ronaldo has left the club, choosing to retire after winning the league with United last season. Do wonder how United will cope with his departure, as he's been an integral part of Ten Hag's side, scoring over 50 goals in all competitions across the last 2 seasons of Ten Hag's tenure. In addition to these transfers, there are also the almost obligatory bundle of loan players leaving the club, including Hannibal, who will be plying his trade in Spain for Barcelona this season. This is a bit of a strange one, as Ten Hag has just spent almost £100 million bringing in 2 new midfielders, and honestly, I don't think they're any better than Hannibal is. Diogo Dalot also makes his loan move to Real Madrid a permanent one, with the club receiving £42.5 million for him, and Erik Bailly leaves for Nice on a free. Despite not making loads of signings, United start off their title defence fantastically, only losing 2 matches against Leicester and Arsenal before the end of January. They also go unbeaten in a Champions League group containing RB Leipzig, Olympiacos and Brøndby. They were, however, knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Spurs in October, losing 4-0 in a game where literally no one performed well. More signings are made by Ten Hag in the January transfer window. Ian Donald, an Ecuadorian centre-back, is purchased for £875,000. Claudio, a Brazilian right winger, is brought for £8.5 million. And Juan Luca Esquivel, an Argentinian midfielder, arrives at the club for £6 million. Again though, none of these players look completely ready for the first team, and I am thinking it is slightly concerning that Ten Hag isn't strengthening more. United do crash out of the FA Cup as well in the 3rd round in January, after losing to Chelsea 3-1 at Stamford Bridge. In the Champions League, they once again face Inter Milan in the knockout rounds, but this time managed to overcome them via a penalty shootout after a 2-2 aggregate draw. They then face Porto in the quarter-finals, where they beat them 1-0 in Portugal before absolutely smashing them 4-1 at Old Trafford. This means they face Real Madrid in the semi-final. Unfortunately, this proves a step too far for Ten Hag's men, and they are beaten 4-1 in Madrid. In the home leg, they do fight back valiantly, winning the game 3-1, but it's not enough, and Real Madrid go through to the final on a 5-4 score after the 2 legs. This means Ten Hag's last possible trophy in the 3rd season is the Premier League. United only lose 1 more game between the start of February and the end of the season, but there are a number of draws as well. These draws and that 1 loss against Arsenal are what end up costing them, as Arsenal beat them to the Premier League trophy by 1 point, having lost 5 more matches, but also having a lot less draws. It is super close, and United have got to be disappointed with that. Team-wise, United's top players have continued to perform well despite a trophyless season. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. They did actually win the Community Shield, beating West Ham 1-0 at the start of the season, but it's not exactly a major trophy. But despite these good performances, it just isn't enough. With 2 more seasons to go, Ten Hag has given an almost £100 million transfer budget for season 4, and he's got to be hoping to use that to bring some silverware to Old Trafford sooner rather than later. His first purchase is Josko Gvardiol for £63 million. Gvardiol looks good and actually comes in as United's second best centre-back behind Upamecano. But early on in the season, it looks like he is more often than not being deployed as a left-back. Sudakov, a Ukrainian left-winger, is also brought to the club for a £52 million fee. And Andrea Papetti arrives from PSG for a further £49 million. There are also some free transfers, none of which are really anything interesting for the fans, and the purchase of Brazilian youth player Alexandre Paulista in the January transfer window. So, how does Ten Hag do in Season 4? In the Carabao Cup, United managed to get to the final, beating Millwall, Bristol City, West Ham and Aston Villa to get there, before losing 1-0 after extra time to Liverpool. In the Champions League, they have what could be considered a bit of a disappointing campaign, however. After topping their group containing Inter Milan, Monaco and Celtic, they go on to face Bayern Munich in the first knockout round, but leave the competition early as they're unable to defeat them and fall to a 4-3 defeat across the two legs. They do manage to grab themselves some silverware though in the form of the FA Cup. They have a really good competition, only conceding 2 goals in their 6 games. A rock-solid defensive display throughout sees them into the final at Wembley, where they defeat Chelsea 2-0. It's also nice to see some of the younger players starting to sneak into the side as well, with Hannibal making 28 appearances this season and starting the FA Cup final for United. In the Premier League, Ten Hag's side get off to a good start again, and don't actually lose a match until November. November itself isn't a great month, with only 4 points from a possible 12, but things pick up again shortly after this. And January sees a particular high point where United have 19 points to the board from a possible 21. Their undefeated streak goes all the way through to the end of the season, and this allows them to win their second Premier League in 3 years. United fans will definitely be happy with that. I also think maybe Everton fans might be as well, as they're the runners-up in this competition and Frank Lampard is still their manager, so there is still hope for them and their real-life situation. With one more season to go in this simulation, Ten Hag has managed to bring success back to Manchester United, with the only trophy he hasn't won so far being the Champions League. Can he do it in the final season of this FM22 simulation? He is given his smallest budget of the 5 seasons so far in £83 million. And he will need to reinvest some of this money quite quickly. United haven't brought a lot of money back into the club in terms of transfers over the course of Ten Hag's 4 seasons in charge, with players like Alex Telles leaving last season for no transfer fee. This season, De Gea and McTominay have both already agreed a move away from the club at the end of their contracts, and I'd assume top priority for this summer would be a goalkeeper because of this. But in the summer, that isn't what happens. In fact, there's not really much first team business at all. There are some younger players brought into the club for some minimal fees, with the best of these being Fabio Tanner, a 19-year-old centre-back from River Plate, but he isn't a player that is ready for the first team yet. On the outside, in addition to De Gea and McTominay, Amad Diallo leaves for Bologna in a deal costing £32.5 million. And frustratingly, Hannibal heads back out to Barcelona on loan. This one is a bit of a surprising one, as I just highlighted that he played a number of games for United last season and performed reasonably well, but it seems like he isn't a part of Ten Hag's plans for the 26-27 season. With a 4-4-2 diamond narrow system, the best 11 looks like this at the beginning of the season, whereas the other system Ten Hag tends to use, a 4-2-3-1, looks like this. With £75 million left to spend in the bank, it'll be interesting to see if Ten Hag does any business in the January transfer window, and how United do with a squad that arguably has been weakened since last season's Premier League success. United get off to a good start, winning the Community Shield 2-1 in the new season's traditional curtain opener. In the league though, they don't get off to the same kind of dominant start as they have in previous seasons. only winning one of their first 5 matches. There is something for the fans to cheer for by the end of September though, as a dominant display sees United beat local rivals Manchester City 4-0. United continue showing signs of inconsistency throughout October, with another draw against Sheffield United and a loss against Leicester. The months of November and December do see some improvement however, apart from one particularly poor game against Chelsea which sees United lose 4-1. This leads us into January and hopefully some additional business from Ten Hag. And there is one more purchase, a shiny new goalkeeper. The problem is, Danny Mayo is only a 2-star current ability player and not ready to be the first choice keeper at United. He's cost the side £22 million as well, which seems a little bit mad, as looking at his potential ability, he doesn't look like he's going to improve enough to be the mainstay goalkeeper for the next few years, and his money probably could have been better invested. There are no other signings from Ten Hag in January. Back to the league results then, and United continue to drop points throughout January, drawing against Brighton and Liverpool and then losing 3-1 to Arsenal. There's a further draw against Brentford in February, another loss to West Ham in March, 2 more losses to Everton and Fulham in April, and then only 5 points picked up from a possible 9 in the last month of the season. This is probably United's worst performance in the league under Ten Hag, and it means they finish in 4th place with 12 draws and 7 losses to their name, and Arsenal manager Zinedine Zidane leading them to another league win. So how did United fare in the cup competitions in the last season then? In the Carabao Cup they win 1-0 against both Sheffield United and Huddersfield before losing in the quarter-final to Everton on penalties after a 0-0 draw. In the FA Cup, United make it all the way to the semi-finals, with a run containing wins against Manchester City, Everton and Liverpool before losing 2-1 in extra time against Arsenal in the semi-final. This means that United's only ever chance of a trophy is the Champions League, the only piece of silverware Ten Hag hasn't won with United in the past 5 seasons. So how did they do? Well, they finished 2nd in the group stages, finishing level on points with Borussia Dortmund but with a worse goal difference. This means they face Bayern Munich, the team that knocked them out of the cup last season, and they do it again. A 2-1 win at home in the first leg would have seen United's fans returning home hopeful for the second leg, but a 3-0 loss in Germany means that they once again see themselves crash out of the Champions League fairly early. It has been an exciting few seasons for United fans though. With the new budget, this version of Ten Hag has won 2 Community Shields, 2 Carabao Cups, 1 FA Cup and 2 Premier Division trophies. The Manchester United trophy cabinet is fuller than when he got here, and that can only be a good thing. Although, after his final season not being a great one, Varane and Maguire leaving the club at the end of the season, and a £126 million transfer budget for the season ahead, it might be time for Ten Hag to instigate another rebuild. If you have watched this far, I assume you enjoyed the content, in which case a like on the video would be very much appreciated. And if you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button now as we try and reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of May. Until next time, check out the video on the screen next and I'll see you soon. Bye!